Okay, and we're live on the air.
We're live on the air. Hello.
Welcome to Suzilla.
It is Suzella, and today is June. Well, it is a day in June. Today is June
5th.
5th. First
Thursday.
Thursday of June. So here we are, talking stuff. It's Suzella. I'm Susie. That's Matt. This is Wenatchee Insurance Agency. What are we talking about today, Matt?
Well, we delayed our Pride episode.
Because it's proud. Because we wanted to wait for Pride Month.
Well, yeah.
Kind of.
We, you could go back through the archives. I think we've been doing this for almost 5 years.
Has it been that long?
Well, 2020 is when we started.
Oh my gosh. And we did have some inconsistencies early on, but we got much more consistent about it.
Yeah, but I think Pride's been one of the ones we've talked about every single time.
Well, it's because it's important.
Well, yes, and it's one of those things we got involved in really supporting Pride after a couple rainbow flags got burned.
Yeah, that was actually a major factor about it. We had just some folks decided they were going to be jerks and light fire to someone's personal property.
Well, it wasn't just some person's personal property. It was a business.
Was it a business that got burned?
Yeah, it was at the little coffee shop down at Pybus Market.
That's right.
And I don't know if it was Little Reds at the time.
It wasn't.
It was another one, but they went out of their way to tear off a pride flag and burn it. And then shortly after that, a bunch of college kids over at Ellensburg decided to burn one as well.
Yeah.
Tear it down and burn it in front of people, and said they felt that it was. I can't remember what the reasoning behind it was. It was
their reasoning or the actual reasoning.
No, their stated reasoning.
Because the actual reasoning is just narrow-minded bigotedness.
And I have to commend Ellensburg Pride organization for stepping up these last couple of years and really starting to expand the program about being inclusive.
That's awesome. I love that. Inclusivity is important, especially during Pride season.
Well, it's not especially.
Well, no, but overall, it's just at Pride season, it's kind of on the forefront.
It should be on the forefront on what people are thinking. We're seeing the traditional. It took 2 days before I kicked someone off a forum.
Oh, only 2 days?
2 days. Yeah. Usually 2 days is the well, do I feel safe? Do I feel safe? And it's like, no.
You're not them. Well, I mean, the standard pushback right now is, what about the veterans? How come we don't have a Veterans Month? Yeah, we really do. We have 2 of them. We just got through May, which was a Veterans Month.
Exactly. So the ones who just got through May, and we started spouting about the veterans, it's like, awesome, because LGBTQ members are veterans as well.
Many of them are.
And it's a long-honored tradition, over 250 years, thanks to the first Inspector General.
That we're aware of.
That he was the first open.
Open. That's the key, is open.
Open. And it was Baron von Steuben.
Yes. He's a hero of yours right now.
Well, yes. And so if someone says, well, what about Veterans Day? So I bring up Baron von Steuben. He was the first Inspector General. George Washington tapped him to instruct the troops. Taught them how to drill, important drills that are in the Blue Soldier's Book to this day.
So von Steuben's training and what he did are still gold standard in this work.
For 250 years.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay. Because
it's basic good stuff.
So when someone brings up, hey, well, what about military awareness? It's like, cool. I'm glad you mentioned it, bro. Now it's Gay Military Month. Because yes, there are classic examples like that all through.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's gay, there's transgender, there's ace, there's, you name it. The military is a microcosm of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
So in humanity, there's a huge variety of people. In the military, there's a huge variety of people.
Yeah, and it does. The thing is it doesn't have to end in tragedy.
No, it doesn't. It shouldn't.
And that's where that exclusionary concept usually ends up getting people into tragic ends.
Yeah.
A great example of that is he was a British soldier, a British military who did the encryption thing in World War II.
Oh, he wasn't in the military, but you're talking about.
Well, he supported the military.
Well, yeah, you're. Oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name? I know exactly who you mean. He decrypted Enigma.
Yeah.
And I don't have and he Benedict Cumberbatch played him in the movie, and it was The Imitation Game, and I cannot remember his name. But yeah, I mean, and it was illegal for him to be gay, literally illegal for him to be gay in the UK. Okay, and that in its own right is insane. And because he was in a same-sex relationship, he ended up. They ended up chemically castrating him.
Oh yeah, it's tragic.
And he committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
Which reminds me that Britain's starting to lean back into the chemical castration again.
Well, Britain has got a individual that is dumping millions of pounds into that system.
Oh, there you go.
System of oppression.
Mm-hmm.
I will use the she who shall not be named.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, it's one thing to do. Oh yeah, I don't like it. It's another thing to go out of your way to discriminate.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. It's like, let's go out of the way to discriminate. It's like, yeah.
Well, no, the chemical castration is not being targeted at, targeted specifically at gay and lesbian and transgender folk, but they're using it for folks who are, it's being looked at for folks who are been accused or rather convicted of sexual crimes. Pedophilia or abuse against a child or rape and that kind of thing. But still, it's still I still find that under the cruel and unusual punishment line.
It's Britain; they can do that.
They're not America. They're allowed.
Yeah.
But we'll see how that plays out.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're seeing the
Alan Turing. Turing. Yes, so he's who we're talking about. And yeah, they really he was an abso-freaking-lute hero in World War II. He saved probably millions of lives.
Yeah.
And they treated him like dirt because he was gay.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was one of the things that was in the psych book for years, and it was held over the head of a lot of the LGBTQ community, was how their treatment was on mental health.
Yeah.
Because political prisoners have a tendency to get thrown into that mental health aspect.
Okay.
And thrown into gulags and mistreated and abused.
Mm-hmm.
That's been the way since the freaking start.
Yeah. Well,
okay. Oh, they're crazy.
Oh, you're not on our page. You must be crazy.
So it's one of those ones like, no, it is not in, that is not crazy. It's not mentally deficient. It is a person is being a person.
Mm-hmm. It's just who they are.
It's who they are. And some people take offense to that. I actually had one person compare it to, well, why isn't there a unemployment month? That
person, that was only one aspect of what he was comparing it with.
Yeah.
He has absolutely drunk the RFK Kool-Aid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. It wouldn't be Kool-Aid. Because
it's got number 40 in it.
It's right. So it wouldn't be Kool-Aid, the lemonade, whatever it is. He's totally jumped into that. And don't get me started on him. Because I liked him for a long time, and now he's got me really freaking mad.
To be fair, the reason why pride in these small town communities is one of the reasons is because of individuals like him, born in a small sheltered community.
Yeah.
Not, he's got some smarts.
Didn't get exposed to a lot of people who weren't like him.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of everybody that he grew up around looked and talked and thought a lot like him.
Mm-hmm. And
which is weird because he served in the military and was exposed to other people
briefly, and it was reserves, so it was not a full thing. It was not a full thing. And at the same time, to give you an idea on how sheltered he was it was the holiday seasons, and he had this belief that pumpkin pie was horrible.
Yes.
Because all he'd ever experienced was a store-bought pumpkin pie or something.
A bad pumpkin
pie. Or a bad pumpkin pie. And so I'm like, okay, cool. I'll bring in pumpkin pie. You can give it a shot. And he swore up and down after he tasted that was the best thing you've ever had. And he claimed it wasn't pumpkin pie. And that's really a good example of being from a limited silo experience.
Well, here's the thing. You come back and you reminded him of that, and he said, no.
Mm-hmm. That's because he's getting the reinforcement
from
on the negative side.
He went back to his silo.
Mm-hmm.
He was out in the world for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But he moved back to his silo, and now he's getting the negative reinforcements again. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough one. And he doesn't. It's so difficult. Because you want to give some grace, but it gets to the point it's like you just can't do it anymore.
Well, it's because they're self-medicating hate.
Okay.
And there's always this like, cool, you're self-medicating hate. Okay, you're gonna like, cool, you keep doing you. We're gonna go over here and we're gonna have fun.
Yeah, we're just gonna enjoy ourselves.
We're gonna enjoy ourselves and enjoy the people around us.
We're gonna throw frisbees and listen to music.
Mm-hmm. And then it becomes that way. Then the thing is, well, why am I all alone? Or why won't anyone help me? It's because you're self-medicating hate.
Yeah. But, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that hate community silo this person's involved in would help him if he needed help. I don't know.
It would, but it would charge him.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's usually what those hate communities run on. Is like, how much are you paying me?
Yeah. Have you tithed lately?
That's a really good analogy for what is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I was raised that way as a good Christian. Well, you're awful judgy for a Christian.
Mm-hmm. You're not behaving in a very Christian manner.
So you instantly they throw out these things, and it's like you start to see flaws in that argument.
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan famously wore drag.
He did?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen that picture. Was it one of his movies or?
He when he was in the military.
Was he doing like a?
He did a military.
Okay.
Thing with in drag.
Okay. Because there you go.
So yeah, Reagan wore drag, and he's like the kind of the gold standard for the Republicans.
Yeah, I wonder how he'd think of the way the world is going right now.
He wouldn't. He was drooling the last couple of years.
No, if he was not a dead drooling,
mm-hmm.
if he was 40-year-old Ronald Reagan, how would he feel about the way the world is today?
He was pretty nasty.
Yeah, he did have some nasty moments.
He was point blank pretty darn nasty with his worldview. He just had an ability to communicate better than most.
Yeah, that's true. That was his acting training.
And put on a show.
Yeah.
In the end, he got what he wanted. And yeah, it's pretty darn destructive.
Yeah, and we are absolutely still seeing the repercussions of his presidency.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And let's segue back to, because one of the things is the response to that nastiness of the self-medicated haters.
Right.
Is a lot of communities, a lot of businesses are pulling their diverse DEI programs. They're not contributing to Pride because they fear the outlash.
And the outlash is unfortunately not just yelling, but it's actually the people are feeling fearful for their lives and their livelihood. They're afraid of having their their homes or their businesses burned down. Or they're being beaten in the street.
Well, John Redcorn is an example. It happened last Sunday.
Last week, yeah. The man who voiced John Redcorn on King of the Hill and played Chief Haddadi on Parks and Recreation, and I can't think of his name. I'm bad with names today. He was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
He and his husband.
It was more than just murder.
It was a hate crime.
They killed his dog, burned his house, and then shot it.
Mm-hmm. They burned his house a couple of years. Actually, it was a couple of years ago, I want to say, and because he was gay.
Yeah.
He and his husband there, and so they moved out there. Went back to check to see if there's any mail, and what the hateful neighbor had done. They had found one of the dog's skulls, and they put it out on display, which just broke these poor people.
Mm-hmm.
And they were crying and sad and being a little bit loud. So the neighbor came out and shot at them. And it was awful.
And the police have said that there was no hate crime involved.
They're wrong.
And that is why we have things like Pride Month.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. To shine lights on the fact that these are these
people are actively discriminated against.
Exactly.
In a very nasty manner.
Mm-hmm.
And it takes away from our community as a whole.
It does. It really does. Because everybody is part of the community. And there is no being a member of an LGBTQIA plus in that spectrum doesn't take away from anybody else. Mm-hmm. Having equal rights does not take away rights from somebody who is not in that category.
Yeah.
And for some reason, these narrow-minded people, these people who have lived in their silo of hate, don't seem to think that if somebody who isn't them is offered equity and equality, and that they will lose something.
Well, it's that fear of loss that we see with the women's sports argument as well.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Well, and I just don't get where I don't. There's such a logical it's so illogical. The disconnect is there, but it cannot, for some reason, get through to people's heads. And I don't understand why that is such a wall.
Well, it's not a wall.
It is to them. Why is that a wall for them to not be able to break through this and understand that they're not losing anything by other people being in great shape?
Because all of the prejudices and stuff are real. They have been real for a long, long time, and a lot of people want to ignore it. Yeah. And by people so readily jumping into that hateful bandwagon, shows you as like, oh yeah, no, they were only pretending to be nice.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who pretend to be nice.
That's true. That's true. We've run into that. Mm-hmm. So you were talking about women's sports because we were discussing that this morning. One of the things that we're seeing is the whole, there's a boxer who boxed in the Olympics, the last Summer Olympics, who was a transgender woman.
No.
No?
No. Hell no.
Okay.
You get a hell no with that
Sorry.
one.
Please correct me.
She was born a woman.
That's right. I'm sorry. She's not transgender. I'm on the wrong person. Go ahead. You explain.
Yes, she was born a woman, raised a woman.
Is a woman.
And because she's, I guess, got masculine features, people wanted to pile on her and say that she was not a woman or she was transgender. She comes from a country that will kill her if she
if she wasn't exactly in their little pigeonhole.
Correct.
Yeah. I apologize profusely for my mistake and my stupidity.
So yeah, and because of the outrage and the she who shall not be named, dumping all sorts of money down, grabbing all sorts of this media attention, to drive this hateful rhetoric. She hasn't boxed since the Olympics.
No, I don't feel bad about that.
And this is someone who won the gold medal in their weight class.
And she is a hell of a good boxer. I hope she's still training. But she's not competing.
Right now she's not competing. They disbanded the original federation for that Olympics. Put in a new federation, and on the 30th they said, hey, if there's a controversy involving someone's gender, we're going to do a chromosome test.
Why don't they just chromosome test everybody then?
It's because it's expensive, it's inconclusive, because there's like something like
this is not going to be a solid test.
It's they're looking for the Y chromosome, which occurs in multiple different occurrences, and you might not necessarily be a guy and have a Y chromosome.
No,
chromosomes are one of those really, really weird things. I went to middle school in the 80s, and they were talking about, multiple chromosomes for humans at that point. So this is not a new concept.
No, it is not. It's not as basic as X, Y, XX. There's variance beyond words. I mean, they have yet to figure out all the little details. It's science. Science.
Okay, the science is the measuring, but there's an artistry in the presentation.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
And that's a great way of looking at it, because I remember different societies have different genders more than just the binary.
Oh, absolutely. Since there's always been people, there's been,
Well, yeah, it's one of those, famous. It was Aikido. Aikido has you get to a certain point where you earn your warrior's skirt.
Okay.
Your warrior's skirt. Most guys would have a problem with, he's wearing a skirt. It's like, yeah, you're also a martial arts expert. Deal with it.
Yeah, well, and look at and then there's the Scottish kilt. It's like, okay, clothes do not make your gender.
And at the same time, some people think that.
Well, they're wrong. They're wrong. Okay? Women aren't men because they wear pants.
Yes. Our forefathers famously wore heels, makeup, and powdered wigs.
Exactly. No. And if you look back into early civilizations, you'll see the those who were two-spirited, they call it sometimes.
It's different.
It is different. But
it also depends on which nation you're talking to.
Absolutely.
Because the only reason I know this is because I had a wonderful person doing a PhD paper on Native American gender identity, and they had a slideshow where you had to guess which gender.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah, about half the time people get it wrong. Yeah. Because you can't tell by clothing or appearance, or you couldn't use the secondary markers. But yeah, there was they took largely, it was the Southwest tribes. There were like 9 different genders in roles assumed by each one. And that was my first, and that was like early 2000s when I got that experience. But yeah, people do different things to match their match what they see in their minds
Mhm.
for gender, and people get it wrong all the time. So what the best thing to do is like, hey, that those pronoun things help a lot
Mhm.
because that matches up with what you're saying with what they view themselves.
Well, and honestly, that's just a matter of human respect.
Mhm.
We respect each other. That's the thing. You respect somebody. If you changing a person, okay. One of the things that I've always been super cognizant of, I grew up with a difficult to pronounce last name.
Yes.
Okay, so I've always been like super cognizant of properly pronouncing people's names. Okay, and I'm actually pretty darn good at it.
Yeah.
And so it's the same level of respect.
Mm-hmm.
It is the same level of respect to call to in a conversation with somebody or about somebody to use the proper pronoun. He, she, they, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And any variety or whatever. If they want to be called sir or ma'am or king or queen, if that's their pronoun, who might argue?
And see, I grew up in the context of misgendering as a gesture of rudeness.
Oh, very much so.
The drill sergeant walking into the room and going, "Hey, ladies."
Oh yeah.
To a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
You can use those genders and those pronouns to really be hurtful and demean others.
Yeah.
And I do my best not to do that.
Yes.
I've even done the so far as not addressing men as boys.
Yes. I actually pulled away from that some time ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing that Matt was actually really serious about when we had our son. It's like, we're not your boys.
Mm-hmm.
So my guys are my men.
Mm-hmm.
Even when Nick was a little dude.
Yeah, he was like a little dude or a little man. But yeah, that's kind of
and that's just that I take that as a personal choice.
Mm-hmm. It's
Matt wanted to have that level of respect, and I respected that.
Okay, so let's get into the business aspect.
Yeah, okay.
And the business aspect, yes, you're going to get some blowback.
Yes,
you're gonna have some individuals that absolutely freaking hate it that you are inviting the entire community.
Mm-hmm.
You're not limiting who you hire or who you work with.
You probably don't want those people in your world anyway.
Yeah, because they're going to talk bad about you behind your back.
Yeah, they're never going to be people that are going to be supportive. If you do anything that is not in their little silo, you're going to get pushback on them.
Yep, they're gonna leave you in a heartbeat. So
it's a watershed moment. It's like, listen, they're going to push on this one. They're going to push somewhere else too, and they're just going to keep pushing until they push you out of business.
Yeah, it's the bully factor.
It is.
Because
it's not okay.
Bullies only do that to people that they think that they can get away with.
Mm-hmm.
They perceive them as weak. They perceive them as just solitary.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's more community surrounding people with love and saying, no, I'm gonna stand up.
Mm-hmm. So
the less bullying happens.
Mm-hmm. So it's important to protect your neighbors.
And it is incredibly. I remember it was I want to say it was 22 or 23 when actually Pride opened up. Mm-hmm. And because we had to offer for COVID on 20. It was either 21 or 22 when we came back, and we were there, and only 3 food vendors showed up, and all 3 of those food vendors sold out. We bought, I think it was 600 bags to give away. Yeah, and we were out within like the first 3 hours.
Yeah.
and by year 2, people began replicating what we did,
Mm-hmm.
and that was 23.
Yeah.
Replicating what we were doing for giveaways, for events, and it was to the point where it was almost humorous, because we see them the early part of the cycle, and by the end of the cycle in July, we were being copied. It's like, okay,
we did something right.
We did something right. It's replicated. There were people there for different businesses that were there, kind of cashing a paycheck.
Yep.
And you could tell.
Oh yeah.
Because I think famously one of them, here's your brown bag.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
And it was like, no, that's an ugly brown bag. Who wants an ugly brown bag when there's rainbows going all around?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
And it was that level of thought.
Yeah, or lack thereof.
Or lack thereof. It's the same lack of thought that when people automatically rainbow their logo for the month of June, and then go back to business as usual.
Yeah,
it's the same concept of going to church every Sunday, and then going out and being nasty to the waitress.
There you go. The being nasty to the waitress, because it's when they go to brunch after church.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, pay attention. Usually the folks that contribute to Pride or inclusive events, they've got stuff going on throughout the year, and they're genuine in it. They're not the ones that are doing the rainbow temporary stuff. And it really becomes evident when you watch their behavior. So yeah, scratch the surface, because these are people who are willing to stand up and defend their community. So you want to be part of that community, because they'll defend you.
There you go. That's perfect. All right, y'all have a great week. We will talk to you next Thursday.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.